Hello, everyone. My name is Graeme Park, and welcome to the first in a new series of broadcasts called Hacienda in Conversation, where I'll be talking to some legends of the dance music and house music scene about their careers and about their connections to the Hacienda. And our first guest, he probably needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him an introduction anyway. He's a legend of dance music and house music. He's someone who's worked with Mariah Carey, U2, Michael Jackson, Aretha Franklin, Madonna, and Whitney Houston. And I'm very pleased to welcome to Hacienda in Conversation, Mr. David Morales. David, welcome.
Here's Johnny. Yeah, I'm here. How are you, Graham? What's happening?
I'm very, very good. How are you?
I'm good. I can't complain.
Good.
Well, I could complain,
you're in
but,
Italy.
yeah, I'm not going to complain.
Well, no, we're not going to complain. We're going to have fun for the next hour. So you're in Italy. Where about in Italy?
I'm based out of Bologna.
Lovely. And I bet it's not as cold and damp as it is here in the UK. Why did you?
Not
I mean,
at all.
we're going to talk about your history and your background. But before we go any further, how did you end up in Italy? Of all places in the world, why Italy?
I've always thought about moving to Italy. I mean, to Europe per se. I mean, but and I actually was entertaining Barcelona a lot, really Spain, because I speak Spanish, and I wanted somewhere where the climate was interesting. I just really enjoy Europe. If the UK had good weather, it would have been the UK, but your weather sucks over there. It's like I can't make it's really depressing over there. I don't know how you guys do with the clouds and the rain. You know, it's like when the sun shines, it's so beautiful. It's like a whole nother vibe when the sun shines up there. It's amazing. But anyway, I got married, and my wife is from Bologna, so you know,
beautiful.
It's really instead of being in the States, so it was still being in Europe, and I think I never looked back. You know.
Yeah, so you got married to someone from Bologna. That's why you end up there. Imagine if you got married to somebody from Accrington. But anyway, you didn't. So no disrespect.
No, but the best thing is that I feel, because it's such an old, wonderful city. I mean, being in Italy, which is one of the, there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of culture. So I feel like every day is a holiday. You know what I mean? It's like that is so special. You know what I mean?
That sounds great. And no disrespect to the good people of Accrington, by the way. But I must pick you up about British weather. I love British weather. I love the fact that it's different every day. But we're not here to talk about the other. We're here to talk about David Morales. Now, you're originally from Brooklyn. Now, you're like me, a child of the 60s. What was it like growing up in Brooklyn in the 60s and 70s?
Well, I grew up like in Williamsburg in the 60s, and it was really, I mean, I come from a poor neighborhood, ghetto, call it what you want. Where it's like my neighbors were cockroaches and rats. Those were my roommates at the end of the day. But the days of where you had like the neighborhood social club that was in flat black with day glow spray paint with a jukebox, and I lived like I was surrounded by a lot of factories and stuff. So I was one of those kids that, our doors stayed open. When you go to the hood back in them days, whether you lived in the projects or you lived in the ghetto, the door was always open from the morning to nighttime. So as kids, we easily were able to just roam the streets. I'm talking about even when I'm like 5 years old, where it's like, even when my kids were 10 years old, you ain't going nowhere without me knowing where you're going. You know what I mean? It's like the doors were closed anyway. But I will find myself in the strangest places, in factories, and places that, like, when I think about it as a parent, man, it's like, how do I let my kid go out the door and not even know where he is? You know what I mean? Because it was like that. You know what I mean? There were drug addicts. I mean, the backyard look like a construction dump that, this is how you found kids playing in backyards, just like being curious, where you can catch hepatitis or any damn thing back there, And what's funny is
Sounds like Accrington. No, it doesn't sound like Accrington. Sorry.
I used to have a social club down, because you came down the steps from the building, and then you have like, like either a store, or in this case, there was like a social club and had a jukebox. And it's where, every gang
Wow.
had like their social club. You know what I mean? Every block gang had their social club where they would hang out, bullshit, whatever. And because it was having to be downstairs, and the one thing when you grow up in the ghetto is like everybody, everybody's family. I mean, your neighbors know the kids. It's like the drug dealers know the kids. I mean, it's a whole thing. So they used to play at a jukebox, and like my parents, Puerto Rican, of course, they only play Latin music in our house.
Right. I
But
was
I
going to
couldn't be
ask.
bothered with.
I was going to ask
I mean,
what was the
but I couldn't
soundtrack
be
to
bothered with
the?
it. You know what I mean? I think the first record I heard in my parents' house, the one English 45 that they had out of all 45s was Jungle Fever by Chakakas. You know what I mean? That was the only
Wow.
American record I heard at our house. But the social club downstairs on a jukebox, I mean, they had Mr. Big Stuff. They had Honeycombs, One-Eps. Of course, James Brown, Sex Machine. I mean, do you remember the Almonds, One Bad Apple? You know what I mean? So,
Oh yeah, of course.
you know what I mean? But I loved black music. You know what I mean? To give it a definition, I just liked soul. I mean, I grew up with the early Jackson Five, the Temptations, the Four Tops, Gladys Knight and the Pips, the OJs. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So I mean, my
Is it
first
is it
45 that
because? No, I was going to say, is it
go ahead.
because you come from you got a Puerto Rican family and a Latin background? You wanted to rebel against that, and that's why you loved soul music.
No, well, my parents were born in Puerto Rico, but I was born in Brooklyn. So, we only spoke Spanish in the house, but spoke
No,
out the
I mean,
house.
but I mean the music though. You must have like had like Latin music playing in the house.
Oh my God, it's like it was drilled. Even the TV, my
Yeah.
mom take over the TV, so it wasn't about even the only time we watched TV with anything American, we came at that age where we talk about cartoons. I mean, because you didn't care about anything
Right.
else. But I really I just wasn't into it. It just did nothing for me. You know what I mean? But now
So
we fast
you're in
forward. But
yeah, yeah.
I mean, and I'll go back to it. But let's fast forward now for a moment. Now I appreciate my musical roots more than ever, because now as a songwriter producer, now I understand the musicianship and what the amazing arrangement that goes into those Latin records. I mean, so I
Well,
have a better
exactly,
appreciation
because
today. But back then, I was like, "Yo, give me some soul."
yes, exactly, exactly. But I mean, you say I was going to. The reason I asked that is because you touched on it. The all that Latin percussion that must have been drilled into your brain. You can hear that on your remixes throughout the 90s. So it must have got
No,
in your brain.
I'll probably say you will hear it more in Louis Vega's work.
Okay, all right, okay.
Louis' uncle was Hector Lavoe, but no, really, it's like it's like if I and I grew up listening to some great bands. I mean, Eddie Palmieri, Hector Lavoe, El Gran Combo. I mean, Willie Colon. You know what I mean? For example, so there was some great American people. I mean, Latin people, Tito Puente. It just didn't peak my brain. You know what I mean? It's like the
So what did
stylistics peak my brain. The OJs peak my brain.
so what did the young David Morales want to be? I mean, how did you do at school and college, and when did you realize it was music is what you wanted to do?
Well, I like music since. Well, I love music since I was a kid. I was that kid that was always attracted to the stereo. The stereo just always,
Yeah,
I find it fascinating. I didn't find the TV
me
fascinating.
too. Me too.
I found the stereo fascinating. And you know, I come from the school or the tradition that my parents and they came to New York without any education per se, so they didn't have anyone to teach them that there's possibilities um, in the world and stuff. You know, we come from a social status that it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's like you don't make no money. It's like and the thought of an education is one thing. It's more like you're more thought about the culture of of survival. You know what I mean? So I like I loved reading books because remember back then it's like there were no video games, there was no things, there was not what these kids have today. So you had to entertain yourself. So that means sports, um, for sports reading. I mean, so I like to play baseball, and I was really good at baseball, and I really wanted to be a professional baseball player. And
Wow.
I took an exam out of junior high school to go to a high school that had a baseball curriculum, but they lost my school records, and I had to go to what they say is my zone high school, which was the beginning of the end. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, my parents didn't fight for my rights to fight the system and say, hey, you know what? He passed the test. They sent him the invitation to go to school. You know what I mean, to show up for the first day, and then I went to my zone high school, was by that means the school that's in your neighborhood, and that just destroyed everything. And I never even made it past my first year of high school, which was I was 15 years old, where I got left back in junior high school, and then in high school. I got shot in my first year of high school, so I couldn't play
Shot.
sports. Yeah, shot like boom. I couldn't go to school,
Where did you
so I
get
never went
shot?
back to school.
Where did
In
you
my
get
calf,
shot?
in my calf.
Wow. Well, I'll
Yeah,
tell you
it was one
what,
of those,
baseball's loss is definitely the music world and club culture's gain. So you could have ended up being a professional baseball player. Wow. So,
Well, yeah.
yes. So when
But
did so you didn't do very at high school? You got shot in the calf, but when did you discover clubs and girls, basically? Because I'm assuming that's the lure for everyone, isn't
well,
it? Clubs and
listen.
girls,
Well,
or the
even
opposite
when I
sex.
was in no in well junior high school, first of all, I mean, in junior high school, I learned about. No, I learned that in grammar school actually, but the next level was obviously when you get to mine was junior high school, and not high school. But I did. I have to say, you want to know when I did my first party? It was we call it a hooky party,
Hmm.
and I was about 15, yeah, 15 years old, and I used to go to a high school called Prospect Heights. That was in Crown Heights. So what I mean by hooky party, what we did is I threw a party in the daytime for the school, for the school kids. I advertised free beer, and we waited for some girls' parents to go to work. And then after they left to go to work like 8 o'clock in the morning, we brought in the sound system. We moved some of the furniture out of the way, so we had kids hanging out like at 9 o'clock. We went from like 9 to like
Wow.
2 in the afternoon. So we just played
Wow.
music. The DJ booth is in the living room. The speak in the bedroom. The system is in the living room. We have no monitors, nothing, and that's just how this shit just rock and roll.
And
You know
you
what I
and
mean?
you were playing you were playing the records at these parties, yeah? You were DJing at these parties.
Yeah, I had a setup in my bedroom. I was a graffiti artist, so my room
Right.
was painted
Wow.
in all graffiti. I had like a sound system at home. We lived in those pre-war buildings, and we lived on the sixth floors. And those old buildings, I mean, the walls are thick, but when you live in the hood, everybody's making noise. Ain't nobody going to your, hey, can you turn the music down? That shit wasn't even happening at all. You know what I mean? You could rock your shit. You know what I mean? I had these 18-inch cabinets in my bedroom.
Wow.
It was some shit. So I hated going to school. I would wait for my parents. My parents would go to work, and this is straight up real talk. I will go to the store, and we will have like I don't know if they still sell it, but Brooklyn like or New York, the hood, Old English malt liquor. You know what I mean? Malt liquor. So
Malt liquor, yeah.
and when you drank this shit warm, you got the stupidest buzz. You know what I mean? So I get
Yeah.
my quarter OE malt liquor. I go home and bang some music. You know what I'm saying? So you know
Yeah.
what I mean? As a teenager, I lived. Music was everything. I mean, I would go to a record store. I went to there was the record store on Flatbush Avenue in Church for all you some of you Brooklyn folks, and it was called Titus Oaks. And I used to steal records from there. I used to take it out of the cover and like for the older stuff because they used to have like the older vintage, older stuff on top. But all the new 12 inches that they had on the main floor, like all the Prelude stuff, all the South Soul record stuff, you know what I mean? All those things. So I would go to a record store, even if I had no money, because it was on my way uh, to and from school. So it wasn't open as I was going to school, but when I was coming home from school, so I stopped there all the time, even though I had no money, nothing, and I was up there all the time. It was also, and even when you walk by, by a stereo store. And you saw that mixer and you bought and you saw those decks and you dreamed that one day, oh my God, you want to buy, and you would go and look at it. You see the same shit every day, but you still go inside the store and you look at it every single day.
So this is kind of early to mid 70s, presumably. When did you realize that you wanted to try and, be a proper DJ and play in nightclubs? And what was your first experience of that and where?
Well, I did first of all, I did my own parties. I would do house parties. I mean, I would design my own invitation, because I did graffiti, so I would design my own
Yeah.
invitations. I would post them up on the walls, bus stations, train stations, and these things.
Wow.
So I started really as I had a regular job, and I started doing these parties in Brooklyn at a club called the Ozone Layer.
Sorry, what was the regular job?
I worked in a restaurant. I was a short order cook.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll remember that next time we're in a hotel at 4 o'clock in the morning. Carry on.
And it was a go nowhere job. So I was first playing at a couple of parties here and there at this club called the Ozone Layer, and I would have different
Yeah.
people be hosts or slash promoters. So I would handle all of the logistics per se, and just ask for like a couple $100, as a DJ fee. And then, but I realized that these people were making more money than I was, but I had the hookup. But all I wanted to do was play records. I mean, a lot of people, I mean, I even growing up in the teens, I mean, I used to play for like in Brooklyn, you have Jamaican and West Indian DJs. I used to have these big, huge mobile systems. And whether it was Trinidadian music or Jamaican music, they let me come along. I was like 16, 17 years old. They would let me come along and pay me like about $25 for me to play the American commercial set. You know what I mean? And obviously,
Hmm.
what was being played on radio. So yeah, remember in them days, it was really about playing radio music per se. Um, I started, and I was going to a club called the Loft. And I played. There was a friend of mine from Brooklyn. She used to go to the Loft all the time. So there was a group of people. They were all a bit older than me, so they were going to the Loft. They met Mancuso's Loft in the city, which was like a membership club, So she had asked me to play for, at that time, her boyfriend's surprise birthday party. So okay, I have my music. I have never been to the Loft. Okay, I used to go to a different record store to buy records like rock and soul music, downtown records, downstairs records, and they bought me a stack of records, and it was all these cool imports that were big records at the Loft, and I was like, oh my God, wow! It's like, where can I buy this music at? You know what I'm saying? Here comes Vinyl Mania Records. You know what I mean? Which was, oh my God, all this
Oh,
other
yeah.
music. So I became a member to the Loft, and I was doing my parties in Brooklyn. I would go to Loft to party, but I was having my parties in Brooklyn on a Friday because the Loft was on a Saturday. So I would be at the Loft
Mhm.
every Saturday like a proper clubber, dancer. I mean, I would have my baggy pants, my capigios, I would be there for 18 hours. I was there from beginning to
Wow.
the end. You know what I mean? And then after the club finished, we would go to the diner up the block, and we would all be hanging out at the diner until chow. And then we would go to work because me and a couple of friends of mine worked at the same place, and we would be first we would still be up from the night before, and we would be
Yeah, yeah.
reminiscing about, oh my God, you remember when he played this, and when David played this, David played that. So now the ozone was sort of like a replica vibe wise of what the loft was. So that means,
Right,
I would put up balloons, even though they sold alcohol, but I would put out fruit. You know what I mean?
right.
It
So
was after
you're
hours.
trying to do your
I would play.
version of the loft.
That's correct. And I would play to 8, 9 in the morning. Start at 11 at night, and so I did that for a few years. And then I joined Judy Weinstein's record pool for the record. Kenny
Hmm.
Carpenter introduced me so I can get into the record pool, and they had all the big DJs. I mean, you had to be playing at a club to get into this exclusive record pool. I mean, you had Bruce Forrest, you had Shep Pettibone, you had Jelly Bean, you had Francois, you had Larry Levan, you had T. Scott, you had Steve Thompson. I mean, it was just the creme de la creme of the tri-state area. You know what I mean? It was like an
How did
honor,
that?
and I think I
How
was the
did it
only.
feel? How did it feel to be part of that? Because you would then go on to meet all the people you've mentioned. I was going to ask you about this. All the people you mentioned, you'd end up getting to know them and working with them and becoming friends. But when you got in the record pool, that you must have felt quite pleased.
Well, I mean, I joined a record organization. I mean, a place to get your records. I mean, I didn't meet all these people at one time because I
No, but I
joined
mean, I'm
in
saying,
19.
but you did eventually though. Fast forward a few years, and you would have you've worked. I mean, like Bruce. Let me, for example, Bruce Forrest, right? I've got a quote from you. You said this is what you said. I'm not sure what year it is, but you said about Better Days, watching Bruce Forrest play on three decks with samplers, drum machines, and keyboards. He was the one who introduced me to drum machines and keyboards. Really, from there, I was intrigued. To say that Bruce Forrest had a big influence on me is an understatement. But you went on to become friends with him, right?
Yeah, well, I met Bruce at the record pool, but let me take you
Right.
back. Or my big moment was before all these people. I got the opportunity or had the leverage to actually meet some of these people. In 1983, I was 21 years old. I had never played in a club in Manhattan slash New York.
Hmm.
So what's the first club I play at in New York? Is the Paradise Garage. Now, out of
Whoa, that's a
all the
good way to
clubs
start.
in New York, and I went to before I was doing parties on a regular basis on a Friday, I used to go as a clubber to the garage on a Friday. Again, the garage was a membership club like the Loft, but the difference
Hmm.
was Friday was straight and Saturdays was gay. Obviously, I went on the Friday night. Um, and so when I got a call and the owner never heard me play. It was just based on Judy Weinstein recommendation. I guess they went to her and said, do you know somebody young? We would like somebody young that you can refer to play at our club. You know what I mean? Now you can remember back then, it's like you talk about playing the Paris Garage. It's playing from like 12 o'clock at night to 10, 11 in the morning. You know what I mean? So you're talking about a 20, 22 hour set. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean
12,
12, 10,
12,
12 set.
12 to 14.
Where
To
am I
14
going?
hour set, yeah.
I mean, so, and I was like, I thought somebody was playing a game on me because, like I said, there was so
Yeah, I bet
many
you would.
DJs. I mean, I was like, who the fuck? Excuse me, my bad word. I'm like, who the
No, don't
is
worry
this?
about
I
it.
was like, this is like rubbish. And my friend Kenny
And how
Carpenter
did
was with
that
me in my
feel?
apartment, and I had my friend Kenny Carpenter with me in my apartment, and I'm like kidding him, like, and I'm writing on a piece of paper who I'm talking to because everybody knew who the owner of the Paradise Garage was. No matter who you were that went to a club, or even though you were in a DJ business, you knew who owned the Paradise Garage. So, and you knew that everybody knew the story because the garage was the garage. Case closed. I mean, so when they asked me to play, it's like, okay, like, well, I would like you to, to play a weekend, 2 nights, and I'm like, Well, I can definitely play Friday. I don't think I handle Saturday because I had never played for a full-on gay crowd. And he says, I just want you to come in and play music. That's what I want you to do. Just come here and play music. And I was like, okay, so, who do you want to perform? And I remember I chose Jocelyn Brown to perform on my weekend. And it was in the life. This was October 13, 14, 1983. I still have the flyer
Whoa.
frame somewhere in storage. I played 11 hours Friday, 11 hours Saturday for a total of 22 hours that weekend. They had Thorns 125 Mark II turntables. I played on Techniques. I'm
Yeah.
like, can you change the turntable? They were like, absolutely not. I was like, shit. I was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Remember, it's another turntable. The Paris Garage was, and to this day, has been the most incredible DJ booth I've ever seen in my life. To this day. You understand what I'm saying? I'm talking about a club that was built
Why
in
though?
the late
What was it
70s.
about that DJ booth?
There it had a hydraulic console with 3 decks, two Technics 1700 wheel to wheels on both sides. Um, the way he put his records was a carousel. He didn't have to move. He just wheeled that thing around. And you
Yeah.
got to remember back then, in reality, most DJs did their own lighting. So even though he had a major
That's
light man on the
right.
side,
I did
but there
that.
was
I did
he,
that.
he had a he had we all did well back then, because what else was there to do? You had to let the record play. I mean, you played the whole night, you let the record play. So anyway, after that, I mean, then I was the new kid on the block. Everybody was like, "How did you manage to pull that off?" You know what I mean? Because I would remember, I'm a kid, 21-year old. I'm a 21-year-old kid playing, wearing a sheepskin coat, my shell Adidas. I'm a knucklehead from Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? So but I didn't. The thing was, I didn't know any of these people. I didn't know anybody from the game. And Larry Levan had a big name in the game. I mean, he
Yeah.
was like, he was like the Don. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Mm.
And it was the most incredible, one of the most incredible clubs in the world. You know what I mean? At that time. So I met Larry, and it's like whatever. But you know what I mean. But I had to say, one of when if to mention people that really were like, there was another DJ, because then there was Zanzibar, and there was a DJ named Larry Patterson, and a lot of people in the business. Larry Patterson was like Larry Levan, T. Scott. They were all on this level that were just amazing DJs and knew how to play. They all played on Thorn's 125 turntables. It was a whole nother way of mixing, the blending. It was a plus and minus 3 turntable with straight tone on. It was just another thing. I mean, whether these are a Bozak or Yuri, most of the systems were done by Richard Long. I mean, it was it
Hmm.
was it was some other things. You know what I mean? And then, of course, being in the record pool, I mean, one of the at Bruce Fires was like from at Better Days, and I mean, I just never I just okay, good digits one thing, but Bruce was just like he was just on some other shit. I mean, technically, he's probably one of the baddest DJs I've ever seen play with decks. He had a sampler. I mean, he was like MacGyver. He was like, there's two guys that I feel like make me feel like a dinosaur, or that I'm just I'm just a toddler. Bruce Forrest and Francois Kevorkian. So Bruce got 3 samplers in the DJ booth. He's got a reel to reel. He's got 3 decks. He's got a keyboard, and he's got a drum machine. And I mean, and work, and 2 copies of every single record. I was just like, you just stood there, and you just like, wow. You know what I'm saying? It's like you had to go home and do your homework.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? And
Exactly.
and of course, when I was doing my part at the ozone layer, okay, I buy a keyboard. I can't play shit, but I'm trying to play some bullshit notes while I'm playing. Bring a drum machine, blah 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 blah. Okay, you hit the little things, whatever the case may be. So I guess
But of
and even
course,
during that time, I still worked at a restaurant. It wasn't until I was making enough money, probably about 1985, probably about 1984, that I decided, I don't need to work in a
Wow.
restaurant because I was making like bullshit, 175 to 200 to $200, a week. I just wasn't lazy. I used to help out a friend of mine that owned the restaurant. But on the Friday
And
night,
how much were you getting? How much were you getting paid as a DJ though?
well, I was doing my own plays on Fridays, so I went from making like $500 to I was making a couple of grand.
Wow, wow. And of course, your
I started.
reputation starts to spread, and people start to hear
Well,
about
it started
this
to spread from
young.
1983 after I played at the Paradise Garage. You know what I mean? Because then after
Yeah,
Paradise
yeah,
Garage,
yeah.
then I got to, there was Better Days. There was Zanzibar. Well, I first played at this club in New York called the Inferno, and that was a club on 32nd, 31st, 31st, 31st Street, I believe. Yeah, in Herald Square. That was where I got my first residency every Saturday night. Um, that was in New York. That was the second club I played at after the Paradise Garage. That's what gave my residency. And then my third was Better Days.
And when did you? At what point did you meet? We've got to talk about your friendship and your working relationship with the late great Frankie Knuckles. When did you meet Frankie, and how did that friendship develop, and how did it become a working relationship?
I met Frankie in 1987. He had moved back in from Chicago, and he was a resident at the World, and he came to visit Judy at the record pool, and we just hit it off right away. It was like we knew each other for a long time. It was just something,
Yeah.
that I really, really can't explain. I mean, it's like we never ever had an argument. Never. Ever, ever, ever. Not even lip service. We just had this thing, and it was like, I don't know. And like I said, we just hit it off. I mean, he got me to play at the World as well. You know what I mean? I was a resident there. And then when I played at the
That
Regiment,
was a
of
great
course,
club. That's the first time I
that
saw
was,
Frankie. Yeah.
oh, that thing was amazing. Frankie was on Friday. I was on Thursday. Frankie was on Friday, and David Piccioni was on Saturday. That club was
That's yeah.
rocking 3 nights.
That's
That thing was
that's had a
like,
big. It was like an old theatre with a balcony around it, wasn't it?
that was such a hellhole. I call it.
Yeah.
It's like you had to wear
And
hazmat suits to walk through that club.
can you remember the first time you went into the studio with Frankie, and what was it that you did together? Can you remember?
Well, I started by doing drums for Frankie first. So, like, I did drums for him on one of his early works was "I Want a Dog" by Pet Shop Boys. I bought Josh
Hmm.
Milan that Josh Milan played keyboards on, and I think it was like 87, no, not 88. Um, uh, it was drums on his "Ain't Nobody" album. So I did drums for
Oh
Frankie. And
yeah.
then I think the first remix we did together, I'm not sure if it was, I almost want to say it was "Where Love Lives," our first
Oh
remix
wow.
together.
That's a well. That's a big way to start, because I mean I remember it was released on Arista Records in the UK, and the A&R guy at Arista gave me an acetate of that to play at Hacienda, and allegedly it's the first time it got played in the UK. And I remember dropping it at the Hacienda, and nobody had heard it before. It was like an acetate, so nobody in the whole UK had heard it. And I'd put it in, because with acetates, they're difficult to mix in because the needle jumps. And I just started it cold, and that piano, and everyone just went absolutely crazy. And gosh, how old is that record now? How old is that remix now? 30, almost
Man,
30 years ago.
it's 30 years ago. And you want to know something? It's like it's a classic. And it's one of those records. It's like there's a few of those records that I've done that's kind of like funny how, if we take the records that were 30 years ago and play it for the new generation today, because playing for the
Yeah.
Hacienda, you know what I mean, whether it's a warehouse project or whether what we did a couple years ago in Printworks, when you drop that record, it's like this ballistic, and the crowd is not an old school crowd. It's not a bunch of people our
Yeah,
age. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying?
Yeah.
It's not the audience that we represented back then. Because every DJ like we did at that time, we represented a generation. You understand?
Yeah.
where, I mean, a lot of people our age are grandparents. like like
Don't.
me. Like me.
I'm
So
not. I'm not a
it's really
grandparent yet.
interesting. It's really interesting that you take the new 21-year-old kid, that when you drop that record, it's almost as if they grew up with that record. You know what I'm saying? So it
It's
was
just like
that
a
record,
spine
and
tingling
then
record, though, isn't it? It's a spine tingling
I
record.
mean,
It's just got that
mhm,
atmosphere about it. The pair of you together. Okay, you have to start with a great song, and it is a great song, but you put
it's a
your
great song.
stamp on it, and it stood the test of time.
Yeah, but also,
Also, okay, so we just have to. We've lost David for a
sorry,
second, so let me. Oh, here he's back. He's back.
I made a mistake. My bad.
Don't you worry. At least you didn't make a
It's
mistake
like
when you did Where Love Lives. Thank goodness.
no, somebody's trying to like call me, and it's like I'm trying to like get
Oh
off
no,
my
okay.
line. You know what I'm saying? Because I should be on
Another,
my phone.
another
So
Okay, no, another remix you did though, not long after that, which was equally as classic, was the I think it's called the Choice Mix. Again, it's you and Frankie, I think, of Finally, CC
no,
Peniston, so on
no,
A&M
no, I did
records.
that. No, no, that was me. I did that.
Oh, you
I
did
did
that.
that.
All right, okay.
What
But
we
again,
did, what
a
we did,
classic,
what we did
classic
together that
remix.
was good was "What You Gonna Do with My Love." What You Gonna Do with My Love in Inner City. That was a beautiful mix as well.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
we had done a couple of other ones, but me and Frank, we both had our own styles. You know what I
You
mean?
did.
And we complemented each other but we all had our own identity. So we wanted to just keep it whereas, it'd be special. We didn't want people to pigeonhole us together. I mean, I don't know if that was, what it was. I mean, it just worked worked that way. You know what I mean? But it was always
What's
great
your
fun.
what's your favorite memory of Frankie? Because you set up Death Mix Productions with him and with Judy, and you were very close and did a lot of stuff. What are your favorite memories of the man, the great man?
Uh, that big old smile
Yeah, that big
and
old
that
smile.
and that and that bear hug. I mean, I've traveled. I first started traveling with Frankie on the road. You know what I mean? When I first started, I mean, we were like Batman and Robin. So my first trip to Italy was with Frankie.
Batman and
My first,
Robin. Yeah,
it wasn't my first trip to the UK with him, but we of course, we went to the DMC, championships, awards. We've always
yeah,
been to
yeah.
awards show together and all those things. We went to our first Grammys together, which even though we were like in competition for the same prize, but we were brothers. So it's like, you know, it could have went anywhere, and it didn't matter who it went to because we still shared that prize together, no matter what. You know what I mean?
Do you miss him? Do you miss him?
Don't ask me that question.
I know.
If you want me to
It's
continue
a
with this,
stupid
if you want
question.
me to
Yeah,
continue with
I
this,
know.
if you
I
want
know.
me to continue this like
I
straight,
know.
that's
I was hoping. I was hoping for some nicer stuff. No,
no,
of course, of
I'm
course.
able to talk about him more now. But before, when somebody asked me a question, I would have to say, I'm not trying to be rude. It's like I'm not in the space that I can talk without
Okay.
being emotional about Frankie.
You said that you started traveling with him, and of course, that took the pair of you to Manchester in the early 90s, and you both DJed at the Hacienda. It was the 11th birthday party. What are your memories of the Hacienda? And first of all, you must have heard of the Hacienda before coming to DJ there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, my first time in England, we talking about High on Hope with Norman J,
Norman
the
J.
late Paul Trouble
Yeah,
Anderson. And of course, at that time, okay, you had Ministry of Sound. You know what I mean? And of course, Ministry of Sound was one day. So we talking about to go to that '90s bit. You had all these other people. You had Up Your Ronson. You had Back to Basics. You had what was the other one? Okay, but anyway, and then you had Renaissance, and then you had um, uh, the Hacienda, which was legendary.
Yeah,
You know
the
what I mean? It
greatest
was
of them
just the
all, of
Northern
course.
Soul. It was just get out of here. It's not the greatest. So be quiet. Okay, come on. It's
Yeah.
like you're personal to that shit. but no, but nevertheless, no,
No,
not
it
for
is though.
nothing.
It is. Yeah.
No, but the Hacienda was the shit. The Hacienda was the shit. That there's no doubt. You know what I mean? It was it was the North. You know what I'm saying? It was all that. I mean, when you hear that, when you heard it, I heard when we heard about the Hacienda finally went up there. Of course, we look forward to the Hacienda because we heard so much about the Hacienda. You know what I mean? And oh my God, that's right. We went Hacienda 1991 because I remember playing "I'll Be Your Friend" up there. And that was like
Yeah.
90, 92, 90, 92, 90, I think like 92. Wow, but that was just it was incredible. I mean, that
What do
was
you
that was our
what do you remember
home up
about
north.
that night? Yeah. What do you remember about that first night that you DJed at Hacienda?
I really all I remember was I played something backwards for a minute because it was turntables
Okay.
back then. So I don't know where that I remember
Yeah.
just doing something, some strange things, and like and people look at me like y'all would look at me like what is he doing right now? You know what I mean? The people go, "Ah!" Like, in those days, like you could have went on a turntable, and if you had them like this, it was like, yeah, we love you. Case closed.
But how did the Manchester crowd, the Hacienda crowd, compare to a New York crowd in the early 90s?
Well, I mean, for me, it's the UK that put David Morales on the map as a remixer. So it wasn't even my own country. You know what I mean? So a lot of the records that I mixed that were huge in the UK that became classics, whether it was Stevie V, whether it was Alice Limerick, whether all the stuff that I was even doing here, but the records that I was doing from over there that became anthems. And it's like the clubbers knew who David Morales was. I mean, because I remember when me and Frankie first went out there and
Yeah.
we went to Black Market Records and we walk in, it's like we own the wall. You know what I'm saying? We own the wall. It's like we had our own sections. It's like, you walk in somewhere, it's like back home, okay, you were a DJ that played at a club, but it wasn't all about that. It was all about the promoters that was working,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the whole system. It wasn't okay, you got your name known as a DJ. So people will remember you. Oh, I remember you from the Red Zone days. But it wasn't because there's a reputation between the music and something back in them days because I was doing these red zone mixes. I was calling them red zone mixes because at that time the UK in a lot of bands from the UK infamy like KLF One Time Is Love,
Hmm.
Norman Connors, aka Fat Boy Slim was making all these cool tracks as well.
Norman
So
Cook. Yeah.
like, I mean, Norman Cook, what's it called? So we, I mean, when I was playing What Time Is the KLF, What Time Is
Quentin
Love,
Cook, to
and
be
people were
precise.
like, going bananas, like, yo, he's like, what is this music that you're playing? So I mean, the UK is like, I just remember going in and like, it's like the clubbers were in tune with who was making the music, and that was what really impressed me. You know what I mean? Whereas back home, the DJs knew your music, but the clubbers didn't know, didn't know at all. You know what I mean? So what I mean? Going to Europe and back then, those old raves, Sunrise and Energy, doing those those original festivals and whatever. It just the UK for me, and not just that, they were really upfront with the music. You know what I mean? They just were on top of the game. They were for me. They were more advanced than the American audience. They were way more advanced than
See,
uh,
that's funny
than,
because
than the clubbers here.
in the UK, we're all looking at Chicago, Detroit, New York, Miami, and thinking, oh, that's where we all want to go clubbing and everything. And here you are coming over and saying that it's a complete that the scene in the UK was fantastic. So you're
No,
saying
the
that it was
thing, well, the scene was because because back then it wasn't LA that was happening, not in them days. Chicago and Detroit, they had their thing going. Um, you had New York, uh, but the rest was just. I mean, it's nothing how America is now. I mean, now it's on some other level. I mean, now it's like now we can almost say that the roles are almost reversed now. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? Because now it's another
Why
story.
do you think that is,
But
though?
back
Why
then,
does it take America so long to embrace dance music like Europe did? Why did it take America so long when Europe was
well,
dancing to American music, but the Americans weren't? Why is it? Why
for
is it
you,
taking so
listen,
long?
I'll say the same thing going to Italy. Okay, and let's talk about a country where they don't even speak English. Okay,
Yeah,
and we're going over there like it was just like the UK, but the difference like they didn't even speak English. I mean, and it was just crazy how these people just loved us and just like they, we were like rock stars to them. We're back at home. We weren't even rock stars. Yeah, I mean, it took a long time for America to adapt. But you talk about like, we talk about the mid '90s, where okay, you play in America is one thing, but in Europe we were superstars. You know what I mean, it's
mm.
like people line up. It's like the places were sold out. Having to walk in a place surrounded, by like 10 bodyguards. It's just, it was some other level. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you about working with people like, for example, Mariah Carey, because you say that it was British record companies who gave you your early remix work that became big, but then you end up working with Mariah Carey. But unlike, I mean, when I used to do loads of remixes, you got sent the 2-inch master, and that was it. You had to either keep stuff off there and change it. And you could, if you wanted to change the tempo, you had to time stretch. But you got Mariah Carey in the studio to re-sing Dream Lover. Tell us about how that came about.
Well, when they originally sent me the song, because I always say, you have to send me the song first so I can listen to it. You know what I mean? Because I had so much remix work back then. It's like I was booked for months in advance at that day, and I was mixing anywhere from two to three records a week and playing Fridays and Saturdays at the Red Zone during that peak time. But when it came to her, it's like when I listened to the original version of Dream Love, I was like, this is some bubblegum shit, and I can't do
Yeah,
nothing with
it
this.
is.
It's
It
just,
is.
I just can't. I mean, it was just the corniest. It was like Tinkerbell. So I had never. I mean, the only artist at that time that I have really worked with that had any name at that time was Robert Owens was doing "I'll Be Your Friend." I had
Yeah.
never released anything up until that point. I mean, like I said, being in the studio with someone, the like I said, Robert almost was the only one, and that was because underground, guy in my house, and we wrote the song, la la la. So I said, she would have to re-sing it, but I was just throwing something out there. You know what I mean? Because I had never worked with somebody at that caliber, and at that time she was 21, and
Yeah.
she was a new thing. She already did like a couple of hits with CNC Music Factory, and Mariah. She worked with Walter Abernathy, so she was, like I said, she was Mariah. So I didn't think anything of it. It was just my way of getting out of trying to. And I had
Yeah.
remix. I was into the business for remixing records, but I had to draw the line on some things, and I had to draw the line on that song. It
Yeah.
just wasn't going anywhere. But anyway, make a long story short, so they called my bluff. They called my bluff. Okay, should we sing it? Send us a track. Shit, send her a track.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I go into the studio with Eric Cupper, and this is 1990, 1993. I go to the studio with Eric Cupper, and we come up with this chord structure. Dun, 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 dun. And lo and behold, she came in and re-sang it. You know what I mean? So, she sang it in a whole different key, new backgrounds, new everything, and it became a classic. And it brought Mariah into clubland. I mean, unfortunately, you know what?
It did.
In America they never released it commercially because they did not want her to be associated with the dance culture. I mean, they wanted to keep it in that pop thing. The UK released it commercially, but not in America. And I thought for me, it's like Jesus Christ. It's like America. I mean, they did the same thing to me. My first big record that I had mixed was Whitney Houston, "Love Will Save the Day," 1987, and I was so
Oh,
devastated when they only released that as a limited edition copy. They only made like 250 for for the American DJs for the Billboard magazine, whatever. And it was the DMC that actually put it out as a
that's right.
limited
That's right.
edition on their thing. You know what I mean? Because everybody wanted it. You know what I mean? Because the only people that were playing the remix was me and Frankie because they turned it down. They said it was too housey. It's like, and at that time it was like, what? It's like when you got some yellow promo guy that doesn't even know what house music is because we're talking about 1987. House music was still
Yeah,
real
yeah,
raw back then. You know what I mean? So your
yeah.
average promotional major label company, what do you know about house music? Unless there's at that time and we're talking about people that are based in New York. So the only place you could have heard any kind of house music in New York would be either you went to Ozone Air, you went to the Paradise Garage, you went to Zanzibar, or you went to Better Days. Otherwise, where did you hear house music for you to even understand what house music is?
Yeah.
So, but
So
anyway, and then we went on to do a lot of records together. I learned a lot. She's amazing to work with, hands down. I don't care what anybody says. You have some people say, "Oh, she can't sing." It's like, what are you talking about? Are you out of your mind? You know what I'm saying? Are
you
you
don't
crazy?
you don't have to
I
persuade
mean,
me. I think she's fantastic.
it's
I really
just
do. I'm
but
in.
work
I'm
with
in.
some
Yeah.
amazing background singers that I still work with, to this day. Um, she is the
Yeah. So
reason
yeah.
why I get. She's also the reason why I went my first trip to the Grammys. Actually, it wasn't as a remixer. Really, I went to the Grammys because of Mariah Carey for an album for being producer of the year. So I got to sit next to Mariah in the middle, in the front, surrounded by all of these crazy superstars. I was like, yo, man, I'm like, this is it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It's in the center, third row. It doesn't get any better than that. Well, the first row really is the one, but and it's
Yeah,
funny,
I
and
know. But yeah, that
that
must
was
have been a good
when
feeling.
and that was when Alanis Morissette won for Jagged Pill. So everything goes by in a blur. So and they save album of the year to the end of the ceremonies. La 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 la, and the winner is it's like all right, go and get ready. It was me. Who was it? I forgot some of the other guys. Dallas Austin. There was a couple of you know, a couple of us that were together. Alanis Morissette. I was like, oops, that was fast. So
Yeah,
obviously,
but
I ain't going on
you still
stage.
made it
First of all,
there.
I ain't going on stage to I was ready, you go on stage for the world to see you album of the year. It's like, I was ready, baby. I was like maxed out. There was no after parties after that. Let me tell you something. We didn't go to no after parties because there was nothing to
Yeah, but
celebrate.
come on. That's still a great story. So, I mean, look, apart from your remixes and productions, though, you've always DJ. So, tell us about how you approach DJing now, because you've been doing it. We've been doing it as long as me, so that's nearly 40 years. How do you approach DJing now? Is it different to when you were younger? Obviously, the technology is different. And what can people expect from you this weekend at the Warehouse Project in Manchester?
Well, you know what? I think the the technology is different. Music is music. I mean, music has to evolve. You know what I mean? Because I remember when house music first entered the scene. You know what I mean? Wow, people were so taken aback from house music, even the way music was being made back then. Okay, we're talking about music being made, where with the original house music, here came the 909, here came the 707, you had the 808, you had the 727. There were those were the staple drum machines of what is called house music, and of course, and now you have the technology today. I mean, the controllers are the game today. I mean, whether it's Serato, whether it's Tractor, um, Remember in the beginning where there was a rebellion against CDJs, where people saw CDJ, and people really like to actually throw things at me like, and not, what is this shit that you're
Yes.
playing with CDJs? It's like, where's the vinyl? Where's the vinyl? Okay, they got used to
Yeah.
that, and then here came the computer, here came the syncing, then people like, blah, 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 blah. So I mean, I love music. I mean, and that's something I think, and I'll say this because I can say this, and I have the courage to say this. You know what I mean? That I think it gets to a point that you can go flat, and maybe because you're so in it so long that you lose focus because it becomes too much oversaturation that you sort of like maybe miss what it's really all about. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're coming up as a young DJ where you're hungry and it's like it's that thing that you're consumed over, you know what I mean? But when you've seen the world and everything around it, you've dissected the thing in and out. And then the alcohols, between drugs, between alcohol, between this, the schedule, blah, 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 blah. So all of this plays in your energy and everything that goes on in life, la, 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 la. So sometimes I think some of us can lose perspective or maybe the drive. You know what I mean? And it's funny what the last 2 years had taught me about this. It's given me the time to think. I'm sure a lot of people
Yeah.
had time to think, but it's
Yes, of
allowed me
course.
to thank God. Okay, uh, that because there's so many DJs that didn't have an outlet. I started streaming. I started first with YouTube and Facebook. From there, I went to Twitch, which I have my Sunday mass every Sunday. I've had it for the last in February. It will be 2 years. So imagine. So it's like as you get, if you've been around the block as I have, I'm
We have.
DJing.
We've both been around the
You
block,
know,
yeah.
I'm a DJ over 40 years, almost 45 years. So it's you. I remember the days when all I wanted to do is play, and I would play my heart out in the club. That there was nobody playing because I just wanted to play in the club. You ain't paying me nothing. Okay, even when it came to one person, two people, 10, whatever. Then you get
We've
to a
all done
point as
those, yeah.
oh, you know what? Oh, you know what? There's nobody in the club. I don't feel like playing. You know what I mean? Now you're getting paid all this money, and because the club ain't full, you don't feel the energy because it ain't up to your standards. This is where this is where you forget the roots and
Yeah.
everything because it
Yeah.
really shouldn't matter how many. Okay, the club ain't full because there was a time where it didn't matter whether the club was full or not. You gave it 100%. You understand? But of course, you understand. Oh, you know what? It ain't all that. Or you take it for granted. Or you think you. Blah, 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 blah. So being on Sunday, being virtual, is giving me a platform to engage with the audience because when you DJ, people see you from a distance. You know what I mean? They don't know you.
Yeah.
You understand? They don't know what your history is, what kind of background you have. And trust me, because I have a background that's like, forget about it. It's like, what I mean? Maybe one day I will write a book because to really understand, you know what I mean, the journey to arrive where you are, even at this point, to say at the age that I am now, that to say to be grateful to still be able to do something that I love to do. And this is what I've been so what the Sunday Mass has done for me. So I get to tell people stories. I get to relate to people. I get, it's like I'll share my emotions. I'll share my courage. I'll just strip it down because, for people to, this is who I really am. It's not the idea that you have of me just because you see me from a distance
Yeah.
or somebody says this, somebody says that. And, it really took things back to basics. You know what I mean? Granted, I have an
Yeah.
amazing DJ room for my streaming and all that kind of stuff. It's my favorite
Yeah.
club
Yeah.
in
And
the
and
world
you
right
look
now.
like
You know what I mean?
you look like having immense fun. You have a little dance around and you speak to everyone. But
No,
surely it's
listen,
not the
it's not. You know
same.
what I mean? It's like, listen, it's I have the best time, and like I said, and it's
You can
virtual,
tell.
and I imagine being myself in the room. So it's all the imagine. But that has what I'm saying. It took me back to basics. You know what I'm saying? That took me back to
That's
basics,
good.
and it go back to saying is like, that you love music. It also it gave me time to concentrate on making music. You know what I mean? It's like I wrote like 2 albums worth of stuff. You know what I mean? I have a new album coming out. Actually have an EP out right now, a red vinyl, special limited album sampler with 4 cuts that's out right now. You can get it at your stores in the UK. I'm not sure about New York, but anyway, more information, go on my social media. I'll show it to y'all. So that's coming
Oh,
out
dude.
like in a couple of days. January, I have my new album on the rhythm coming out. So you know, it's like I was blessed and fortunate to have an outlet to 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 be creative. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel sorry for a lot of my peers, or our peers, that didn't have that avenue. You know what I mean? Because it's really been very difficult for
No,
for
I'm
for
totally
most
with
of
you.
us.
I mean, I was part of United We Stream, and the good people from Badger and Coombs who are doing this broadcast for us were behind that and did a fantastic job. And it was great to actually connect with people online, whether it was uh, the United We Stream or my own streams at home. But I don't know about you. You can't beat the atmosphere and the response of a live audience, because how does a live audience influence what you play? Because I don't know about you, but me, when I head to a gig, I have an idea up here what I'd like to play, but often the crowd will make me go a different way. Or how do you approach? I mean, how are you going to approach this weekend's gig in Manchester at the Warehouse Project?
Well, I think I mean, for one, okay, you can have. I normally never prepare for a set,
No, you can't.
because,
I can't.
well, I mean, so it's a bit because you can, unless somebody says, "Hey, you know what? We want a disco classic set."
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
that's
obviously that
difficult.
means, okay, let because there's so many disco classic. Okay, let me see what I'm going to play. Yeah, 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 so you understand, but even that, because it's mindful to go there at least. You really should go at least an hour before your set,
I totally
slash
agree.
30
Totally agree.
minutes. So slash, let's make it minimum 30 minutes, and only because so you can catch a vibe of what's going on. You know what I mean? Because it depends what was happening there before you know really what your first record is, because your first record is your most important record. You know what I'm saying? You don't have the luxury of 2, 3, because it's one thing if you're playing a long set, and by long set I mean anywhere from 4 hours and up. I mean, then that's another story,
Hmm.
because people are going to expect, because you have time to warm up and that thing. But when you only have an hour and a half set to do, and you have that middle slot, you don't have time to
Yeah, you
play
got to
around.
hit them.
They expect you to go. They expect you to go like this, which I really hate. I really hate, because I didn't come from that story. You know what I mean? From that,
No,
it's like
me
it's
neither.
like
But do,
yeah. Listen, you guys started that shit. The UK started that. It's like you guys have a fault for all that nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Y'all did
Mhm,
that. I'll tell
we
you.
did.
I remember the first time I
But
went to the UK, when I played in 1989, and I played with Pete Tong and Nikki Howry at the Sin Astoria, and a bunch of us from New York went there for the DMC. What was the record at
yeah,
that time? Make Your Body Rock by Jomanda.
Commander.
I was asked to the guest list, to do a guest set. I don't know. I bring my 2 big bags of records, so all right. I come from New York, so we warm up. We warm up. You know what I mean? We blah, blah,
Yes.
blah, blah. I played 55 minutes. Pete Tong came in and said, "Mate, that was great. Thanks." And I was like, "What? What?" I was like,
No, I know. I know.
I was like, and they were like, "No, that's how we do things here." I was like, "Shit, I wish somebody would have told me." You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't even get into it yet. You know what I mean? But anyway, um,
But I mean,
okay,
going
so
back
that.
to records, and I have this conversation a lot with younger DJs. Is back in the day, if I was flying to New York or flying to Australia, right up until the taxi came to take me to the airport, I was trying to decide what records to put in the boxes. And then for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, that's all I had in my armory, right? Whereas today, you've got your laptop, you've got your hard drive, you can just load it up with stuff all the time. How has that affected how you DJ?
I love it. We don't miss saying. And I don't have to carry a record. See, people don't know about carrying a record,
No,
okay?
but we don't miss that.
Y'all really, wait, hold on a second. If I take my early days where the DJs from back in the day, we took every record that we owned. So if you had 10, 15 crates, you took 10, 15 crates with you to a gig, even though you were barely playing.
Not when you flew to Europe. Not when you flew to Europe, though, did you?
When I first used to go to Europe, trust me, I used to take those those big metal cases that were really huge.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They were massive. I mean, it's only until the first DMC boxes, those cardboard things that they had that came out that were actually light. But the others from there is like, I remember back in them days, because what were they? They were proper flight cases. And
yeah, they were.
No airline charged you extra money except Swiss Air. Swiss Air would slap you with $400. Our breakfast was like going to Swiss Air. I remember going to plane Club in Swiss, and we used to have to tell them, "Yo, you have to pay the extra luggage for the vinyl." And for some of us, the worst was when your records got lost in the flight, and you had to go to and somebody knew a record store that you were able to go to a record store, even though it's not the easiest thing to all of a sudden trying to find records to play or play with another DJ's records. But it's nice to. Hey, this is my drive.
I mean,
I love it.
Yeah,
it's like it's like 1
are
terabyte.
Yeah, but are you organized? You organize your music, so you chat. What have you got a playlist for?
For this absolutely.
Saturday? And
no, I don't have.
Do you know what you?
No. I don't have a playlist for this Saturday. That I don't do. That's what I'm saying. My playlist. Okay, it's like whatever records I bought in October. Okay, October 2021. You know what I mean? So I have. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I do, and I'll separate. Okay, here's house, here's Afro house, here's techno, because I like all that stuff. So here's new disco, as opposed to throwing everything into one folder. As opposed to everything into one folder, because
I agree.
Remember,
on the first day of every month, I start a new playlist, like you must do as well, and it keeps you organized. You can go back through the months, can't you, and find things.
It's difficult to. The only thing is, where you miss about the vinyl days is, even if it's something new, you remember that cover and going like this.
Exactly.
And you remember that new record. The problem is, it's really difficult to remember a title and information. By the way,
that could be an age thing, though, David. That could be an age thing.
Check it out, my brand new EP. I'm gonna plug this in right now because I should.
Plug it.
4 tracks.
What is it?
Every day of my life. Vinyl copy only. No Boundaries with Tilly, Come the Moment, Black Cat, and Baby Girl, and Never Give Up with Michelle Pereira.
There's your hat.
Jim Rhythm Records, 4-track album sampler. Get it while you can. Limited edition. That's my plug.
Let's get your plug in. What advice would you give to the new generation of DJs, the DJs who haven't had to learn their craft by using turntables that don't work properly, by carrying records around, by trying to get a break? The new generation of DJs who expect to be famous in 5 minutes because they've got big social media followers. What advice would you give to the young up-and-coming DJ who wants to break it into the big time?
I don't come from the game of trying to make it, because for me, to dream, my first dream was to own a pair of decks and a mixer.
Yeah.
My second dream was to actually play in a club, but just to play in a club. It wasn't to become famous, because when I came up playing in a club, the DJ wasn't prominent. You were somewhere in a corner somewhere. It's like you wasn't important. You know what I mean? Good music was important, but people to see you wasn't important. So to be a star, to travel the world. I mean, I've never ever thought in my life that I would be traveling. I love it that I have lived to have represented culture, to be responsible for culture, to be one of the leaders of the culture, and also being a part of its evolution and watching it evolve into what it's evolved.
I feel
You know what I
I
mean?
feel exactly the same.
I'm not here to hate, talk about the music or how okay it's 1 hour sets and all this kind of nonsense. I think, remember when we started in this business or in this hobby, that it wasn't respected. It's like people laughed at you, But now when people see the
Exactly.
numbers, you see David Guetta that became a producer and from DJing and just sold his catalog for 100 million, and you see this DJ making this money, this DJ making this money. I mean, but the act to become famous, I mean, it's just become something different. You know what I mean? But it's just the evolution of the game, and you have social media and thing. I think the only thing I can say, and I'll say this to anyone, I mean, it's the only reason why I'm still in it. You know what I mean? Is because I love it. You know what I mean? I have a
Yeah.
passion for music. You know what I mean? It's like, I have my little setup here because my studio's in like thing. I mean, I carry this everywhere I go with me. I have my computer, so it's like I'll land in a hotel or I'm in the airport and I have an idea and I'll start something. So it's like, I mean, it's never been a part-time thing for me, and I don't do it because I want to be famous. You know what I mean? I always tell somebody, if you love music, nobody can ever take that
Exactly.
away from you. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel
Exactly.
you always have to say to yourself, I will always be a bedroom DJ. And because the moment you forget that,
Yeah.
then you've
And
lost it.
that's what you ended up doing with Sunday Mass. You went back to being a
Yeah,
bedroom
yeah.
DJ,
You go
but
back to being a
connecting with
bedroom DJ. That's
people.
what I'm saying. So it could, because nobody can. I mean, if you love music, it's anybody. It's like you take that old man that's got a jazz collection and he's 80 years old and he loves to go home, have a cognac, have a cigar, and say, yeah, I remember this tune, and he want to play those records, jazz records, not because he want to be famous, because he enjoys that music.
Is
So it's one thing to have dreams and say, because let me tell you something. I'm still living a dream. You know what I'm saying? Every
yeah,
day
I am.
I'm
I am.
living a
I
dream.
agree.
You know what I mean? So, nobody can take away my passion for music no matter what. You know what I'm saying? If you have
Okay.
expectations to arrive somewhere, if you have expectations, well, I want to be a star. I want to be the king. I want to be this. I want to be in a private jet. I want to like, you know what I mean? You got to watch, because there's an illusion with all of this game. You know what I mean? So
I
you know what I
totally
mean?
agree.
So that's a whole nother realm that you don't understand. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's the Instagram
but out of
generation
all
for you.
that, but the
Yeah.
person that's like, is not is you can't. There's no such thing as, oh, it's not a sport to say, oh, I'm better than he is, or I'm a better mixer, I'm a better. It's like, oh, I mean, I should be there. It's like, no, I mean, it's like, I mean, if don't expect nothing, and you won't be disappointed, because it's
Totally
not about.
agree.
So,
This is a
so wait,
very similar.
so what does that mean? That if you don't make it, that you're throwing away your music, that you're throwing away your controller, you're throwing away your computer. What? That's what I'm saying. Because you didn't make it.
No, it's very similar to the advice I give people as well. Absolutely. So just we're a bit over time, but let's wrap it up by asking, what does the future hold for David Morales? I mean, first of all, did you expect to still be doing what you love at the level you are now today? And if so, and also, what does the future hold? What's happening in the next few years? Where do you see the future lie?
I really feel that I'm getting my second win now. I feel
Me too. Yeah.
I'm in a really good place. I'm working with some. I have a great team. I have a great team behind me. They keep me motivated. They believe in me. Um, so the universe is just going in a good direction. I'm doing great with my label. I'm making records. I'm looking forward to touring. I'm still having fun, and um, uh, so for me, it's just to keep it moving. You know what I mean? Keep moving with the music.
Yeah.
Keep
Well,
learning.
please
Keep
keep
learning.
moving, please keep moving, and please keep learning, and please keep doing what you do, because we all love what you do. And also, can I just say, for the first time for 30 years, I've had conversations with you in hotel rooms, in hotel bars, in backstage areas, on the stage, shouting in each other's ears before we swap over. And this is the first time I've sat down and had a proper conversation with you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to see you on Saturday. I can't wait to hear your DJ set on Saturday. Thank you for being the first guest on Hacienda in Conversation. David Morales, an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure is mine. And I'll see you on Saturday.
You will. Thank you very much. And thanks.